Adding a lightning effect is a great way to take your Halloween haunt to the next level. But there's the lightning effect that everyone else has, and then there's the lightning effect that I have. Before I get into the details of how I built my lightning effect, I want to talk about this device, the Perfect Storm. This is the latest iteration of a device known as a color organ. If you were a kid in the 1970s like I was, you could have walked into any Radio Shack and seen a box that looked like this sitting on top of a rack of stereos. And if it was working, it would be flashing to the beat of the music. Light organs consist basically of a microphone and some sort of an electronic dimmer switch circuit. The actual components have changed over the years, but the effect really hasn't. The microphone picks up the sound of an audio source, and depending on the strength of the sound, it flashes the lights accordingly. Now, if the only recording that it's listening to is, in fact, a lightning track, it can produce an atmospheric effect, and if you've watched anybody else's video that has one, you've already seen what it can do. But that's about all it can do. For last year's Halloween tree, I used the lightning strike effect as a transition between the first audio track and the second audio track. For that, I needed very precise control, more than you can get with a Perfect Storm or a color organ of any sort. The solution was a Christmas lights controller. These devices come in various different forms, but they all interface with software that allow you to choreograph your lighting effects with an audio track of some sort. Last year, most of the lights I used were 120 volt AC LEDs. And I already own an AC LIGHTORAMA controller, so that's the method that I'm going to demonstrate in this video. I think this effect could also be done using RGB pixels, and I do have a new RGB pixel controller that I've been experimenting with, but I'm not real familiar with it yet, so I'm going to save that for another video. First, you'll need several strings of cool white LED mini lights. These are 100 count, and I'm using 5 strings just for demonstration purposes. Length will depend on the size of the tree or object that you're placing them on. Next, twist them together into a single strand. When you're finished, you should have a strand that's about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in diameter. Do not use warm white LEDs. They won't be the right color temperature, and they will not look like a lightning bolt. Also, don't use incandescents for this project. They will get too hot. Next, I'll hang the string of lights as high as I can on a substantial branch in the tree. Then I'll route the string down the branch and onto the main trunk, all the way to the ground. Then I'll attach the string to the branch and the trunk of the tree by wrapping it with 25-pound test clear fishing line. Next, we'll need a few spotlights. The ones I'm using are 15-watt AC LEDs, and I got these in the Christmas section at the big box store. They were about $8 or $9 each, and they originally did come with a spike, but I cut the spikes off so I could use them with the Ice Palace parade float that I built a few years ago. Next, I'll plug in the spotlights and position them at the base of the string. Then I'll aim the spotlights. I want the majority of them to shine right into the eyes of anybody passing by. And I want at least one of them to point upwards onto the trunk of the tree. Finally, I'll add a few floodlights aimed directly at the house. These will be used to create the flickering effect before the lightning bolt strike, as well as add additional light during the strike itself. I'm using 12-volt DC RGB floodlights here because that's what I have. You could use the same floodlights that you used at the base of the lightning string. The important thing is that they be as cool white as possible. You're looking for a color temperature of at least 6500 Kelvin. I know most people use halogen work lights to provide the flickering effect, but I don't recommend it. They're just too yellow looking to represent lightning. The final step is to program the effect using software that will work with your controller. X-Lights is the most popular right now. It's a free software that is also open source, and it enjoys a lot of support within the Christmas lighting community. Some of the older and more experienced users still prefer to use Vixen, which was the predecessor to X-Lights. I'm still using LIGHTORAMA's proprietary software because it came packaged with my system, and it's the software that I'm most familiar with. There are substantial differences in all three of the software packages, but they all do work the same way. They all allow you to set timing marks based on the beat of the music or the notes, or in the case of a lightning strike, the intensity of the sound. The advantage of using software over a device like Perfect Storm is that you get very fine control over the lighting effect. You can also split your lights out into multiple channels. So if you want to control the lightning bolt and have it strike at exactly when the big boom occurs, but you want the floodlights to flicker against the side of the house for a few seconds before or after, you can do all of that in software. And the effect will take place exactly when you want it to, and not when the device microphone thinks it heard something that sort of sounded like lightning or thunder. I'm not going to show you how to program a sequence in any of the software packages because that's boring, and there are already a lot of good videos on YouTube that will show you how to do that in exhaustive detail. I'm going to assume that you have watched whichever one is appropriate for your software package and that you've already programmed your sequence. The last step is to hook up your controller per the manufacturer's instructions, fire up the software, and watch your guests kneel before Zod. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.